What's up, everybody? In the Power universe, if a character is still alive, there is a possibility that that character could always return at any moment. Take Liliana, for example, who we had not seen since Power Season 1, when she was serving as a courier in Ghost and Tommy's organization before she was jumped in an elevator by Kanan's assassin and her face was slashed. The scar on her face was too recognizable, so against Tommy's wishes, Ghost had her promoted to the stash to help launder money. But it was Tommy's will to cancel Christmas on Liliana, so Julio gave her money and sent her out of town. We finally met Liliana again 7 years later when Tommy moved to Chicago. Liliana got the drop that Tommy was in town and assumed he was there to cancel her Christmas party, so she went for Tommy first. After an unsuccessful assassination attempt, the two began working together, becoming partners, and she was Tommy's most trusted ally in all Season 1 of Force before being killed in the Season 1 finale. So with all that being said, let me get into today's topic: Power characters who are still alive. I'm not talking about characters who have been seen as recently as the most recent season of Ghost or Force. Honorable mention before getting started to Tasha St. Patrick and Kate Egan. Though we are not certain if they will be regulars moving forward, they were both last seen on the most recent season finale. The first person I want to talk about is Ramona Garrity. This was Ghost's last relationship before getting shot at his club Truth. Ramona first appeared as a political advisor who was assigned to the Tate campaign. It was around this time when she met James and began to favor James over Tate. And as their relationship began, she hooked up James with Loretta Walsh to have James running as Loretta's lieutenant governor. Though Ramona knew some about Ghost's past, it is uncertain how much she knew. It did not faze her, however, because on the Power series finale, in the restroom at Truth, she told Paz Valdez that Ghost was simply unstoppable. Just moments later, Ghost was gunned down by his son Tariq, and as some unfavorable things began to come out about Ghost, when Tate was questioned by reporters, he put the full responsibility of being associated with James St. Patrick on Ramona. And this was the last we have seen of Ramona Garrity on the Power universe. The most popular theory for Ramona's return is that Ghost faked his death and skipped town with Ramona, and we will one day see her again when Ghost returns. And as I do hope Ghost is still alive, I do hope this storyline is eventually played out. I have also heard popular fan theories that Ramona got pregnant with Ghost's child before he died. If this storyline were true, it might take some time before it actually played out. But the most likely scenario would be that as Rashad Tate makes his way into Congress, he bumps into Ramona Garrity again in some type of way. Sticking with this storyline, let's get into the next character, that is Loretta Walsh, who was running for governor and made James her lieutenant. She was last seen when Stephen Ott told her that he was going to give the opportunity to run the governor to Rashad Tate over her after Ghost's death. Like Ramona, if she were to return, it would most likely be in some sort of opposition to Rashard Tate. Next up, let's talk about Paz Valdez in the remaining Valdez family. So we got Paz Valdez, her son Junior, and Poppy. Poppy makes no sense to return unless Paz or Junior returned as a regular on the show. Paz was last seen testifying in Tasha's case. Ghost Season 1, she is living good off the inheritance money Ghost left for her. At least someone is living good off his money because it sure enough isn't his family. She said she has moved past that part of her life. However, in the Power series finale, she was seen going after Tommy Egan only to find an abandoned apartment. Though Paz could return seeking revenge against Tommy Egan for the death of her sister Angela, to me it's more likely that her son Junior would appear in Ghost. Junior was talked about all throughout the Power series, but I only remember seeing him on the Power series finale. And when I talk about the Power series finale, I'm talking about episodes 610 through 615 because it's all the same storyline, just from different points of view. Alright, back to Junior. He was last seen as a college student not able to afford to pay for schooling after Angela's death. But the inheritance money Paz received from James got him back into school. So we could definitely meet Junior again, hooking up with Tariq either at Stansfield or maybe even on Wall Street. He may not actually know who Tariq is when they first meet. This could bring Paz back into the storyline as well. The next family I want to talk about is young Cash Money Grant and his father Kadeem. Cash Grant is Lakeisha's son and Kadeem is obviously her baby daddy. Cash was last seen in Ghost Season 1 finale when Tariq was tracking down Tommy. Tommy had just returned to New York and went to check in on Cash. It was assumed Kadeem was inside and just not seen on the camera. The most likely scenario for the return of Cash would be Kadeem goes back to prison or gets killed, and instead of letting Cash get put into the system, Tommy Egan adopts him to take care of him. But it wouldn't be that easy for Tommy to adopt him because he is supposed to be dead, but he could always have JP or Kate do it for him. We could also see Kadeem appear, most likely on Force, as Tommy seeks to find an allegiance in the streets. Obviously, this would bring Cash back into the show as well. Cash would currently be about 15 or 16 years old, around the same age we really began to see the development of Tariq's character. Sticking with another family and young character, let's get into Elisa Marie Proctor, her aunt Dolores, and her great uncle Carlo Savello, who is a mafia boss and leader of the Savello family. With Carlo being a mafia boss, we could see this family return at any time for a number of reasons. And remember, this family already has bad blood with Tariq because Dolores expects that Tariq was involved in the murder of her cousin Joe Proctor. As for Elisa Marie Proctor, she knows Tommy Egan killed her dad, and remember the line Tommy told her last time we saw Elisa Marie: "If you want to come see me about it when you get older, I understand." Elisa Marie was just an innocent little girl last time we saw her, but remember, she has mafia in her blood. And as much as her dad tried to stay out of the life, there was a lot of blood on Joe Proctor's hands when he died. But Elisa Marie is still a little too young to be seeking revenge, seeing she is still only just 13 or 14 years old. So that is a storyline for way down the line. If Tommy Egan survives that long, what if she could be the one who takes down Tommy Egan in season 6 of Force? Next, I want to talk about Isabel Ruiz. Isabel Ruiz is the daughter of Carlos Ruiz, who was the founder of the Soldado Nation. Carlos Ruiz had his Christmas canceled by none other than Tommy Egan in the infamous murder that was caught on wiretap, which caused Egan problems all the way up until the Power finale, when he supposedly got the 2 final copies of the recordings from none other than who? Elisa Marie Proctor. Crazy how these 2 characters tie together. But Isabel Ruiz was last seen heading to California as Ghost sent her father away so she wouldn't testify against Angela. We do not know if she returned back to New York with her father or if she stayed in California, but it's most likely that she did return back to New York with her dad. Isabel would currently be in her 20s and could still have ties with her father's gang, the Soldado Nation. She also could be a student at Stansfield, or maybe pursuing a job in law enforcement, because by the way, she was a snitch. I have heard a crazy theory out there that Isabel Ruiz was Effie's plug. Isabel could return in Ghost in a number of ways, but if she returned on Force, it would obviously be to seek revenge for her father's death. Though I don't know how she would even know that Tommy Egan was involved, because the other Soldado Nation didn't know he was involved. So sticking with the Soldado Nation, Roberto is the current leader, and he was arrested in Tommy's warehouse with Spanky and TwoBit. It is most likely that Roberto is still incarcerated because Spanky had to snitch to get free and TwoBit had to testify. Though with his co-defendants being released, Tommy Egan being supposedly dead, Blanco Rodriguez was briefly suspended. It's possible that Roberto beat his case, or maybe he copped a plea for only like 2 or 3 years and he would be getting released around this time. This gets me to TwoBit, who was arrested with Roberto and his boy Spanky, but was released in season 1 of Ghost after taking the stand at Tasha's trial. TwoBit then went after Tariq for Tariq to pay off his father's debt. After killing Bars to save Tariq's life, Tariq now owes TwoBit another 20 bands. However, TwoBit never came to collect in season 2. Most likely because of all the heat around the Stansfield campus with the Bars murder, then the death of Professor Jabari Reynolds, and finally Tariq being on trial for double homicide. Out of all the characters on this list, TwoBit is my most likely to return. TwoBit is a fan favorite, and we have seen great character development as he started out as a lowly member of Dre's crew and worked his way up to being a kingpin in his own right as a premier in Tommy Egan's organization. Because TwoBit was running Queens before going to jail, I am sure he knows the Tejada family. And we already know that he knows Tariq. We could also see his return in force going to work with Tommy Egan in Chicago, or even connecting with Tommy Egan and moving the weight back into New York. He could also serve as a middleman between Tommy and Tariq if Tommy were to ever become Tariq's connect. Sticking with another kingpin, let's talk about Cristobal. Cristobal started off as a gang member in the Taianos, and before going to jail, he had worked his way all the way up to distro for the Jimenez. Some people might have a problem with me calling TwoBit and Cristobal kingpins, so let me break it down. Ghost and Tommy were the biggest drug dealers in New York, copping hundreds and maybe even thousands of kilos at one time. So anyone working directly under them is still moving probably 20 to 50 kilos at a time. And this is definitely considered kingpin status, especially Cristobal. Though short-lived, he was the New York distro for the biggest Mexican drug cartel, the Jimenez, at the time after the death of Felipe Lobos. Cristobal was arrested with Elisa Jimenez, who is now deceased. So it will be interesting to see if any charges against him are going to be able to stick. So Cristobal could very well be back on the streets, running the Tainos again, and awaiting an opportunity to get back to the top of the drug game. Okay, now let me pivot for a minute and turn to Jukebox's wife, Candy, who was introduced in season 3, and her main role was helping Kanan recover and getting information out of him for Jukebox. But keep in mind, Kanan did smash Candy before leaving DC. So could Kanan have a child he knew nothing about that we could meet in the future? I'm thinking if this is true, the kid would be about 5 or 6 right now. Sticking with Kanan for a minute, let's talk about his baby mama, Jarita, Sean's mother. Not sure what role she could return in, but I do love that actress Tasha Smith, and she kills every role I've ever seen her in. Up next I have Cassandra, the married woman from the Tate campaign that Councilman Tate was hooking up with. And when this was found out, she was literally given, I think, a Senate seat, I guess to keep her quiet. All I know is that she got over big time. But we last saw her with Tate as he was kicking her out after getting with her one final time, because at this time he thought he was gonna be the next governor. Now that Tate is going for Congress, this is someone else who would most likely make her return in a Rashad Tate connection. Next I have Sue, who was Julio's girlfriend. Prior to getting with Julio, she worked for the Korean Mafia. Much like Jarita, I'm not sure why she would return, but it's more likely she would return just the fact that she gets around and could pop up at any time as someone's new woman. Now let's talk about Tariq's first girlfriend, Destiny, who was also the niece of the dirty cop Ray Ray. And she was responsible for giving Ray Ray Tariq's location when Raina was killed. So, setting Tariq up like that, which resulted in the death of his sister, I'm sure Tariq could never forgive Destiny after that. However, she is the same age as Tariq, so he could always bump into her on campus, but we don't even know who would be taking care of Destiny once Ray Ray was killed, so she might have had to turn to the streets herself. Maybe she turns into a young Monet or Rock type of character. Maybe she gets pregnant, or maybe she is connected to someone who is in the game that will have to do business with Tariq at some point. I would not be surprised if we haven't saw the last of Destiny, and I also thought that actress killed her role. Next, I have Epiphany, who was last seen in Ghost Season 1 when she was supposed to testify against Tasha. But Tariq pulled a ghost and gave her a grip of money so she could get out of town. We do know that Epiphany is on the run, and unless she gets a new identity like Tommy Egan, she likely has warrants out for her arrest, and a simple traffic stop could get her extradited back to New York. So we could see Epiphany return as an informant, possibly trying to get information on Tariq. But nobody wants to see that. I would definitely like to see Epiphany on the run, ending up in Chicago and bumping into your boy Tommy Egan. And the two could start a business relationship, or maybe even a personal relationship. Who knows? Maybe both. Next up, I got Drago, who was Jason Minchin's right-hand man and possibly his successor to be the new boss of the Serbian Mafia. With that being said, Jason was a major distributor, having the connect on pills and yay. So if Drago steps into his place, we could see him on either Force or Ghost as the new connect. Last I remember, Tommy and Jason was still on good terms, and he never found out that it was Ghost who actually killed Jason. He thinks it was Andre Coleman. If he ever becomes Tariq's connect on Ghost and later on somehow finds out Ghost was behind Jason's death, things could get very interesting. Now I'm getting into my last few, and I got Victor, who was in a leadership position under Ghost and Tommy in their organization. He was actually in Power Episode 1 and was seen on and off all the way until Power Season 3. I'm not sure if it was ever even revealed what happened to him, but if he were to return, it would most likely be in Force in a similar way as Liliana. But he held a much higher ranking position than Liliana. Matter of fact, this might have even been who Ghost sent Liliana to work under. But because the fact he was at one point pretty deep into the game, unless he is locked up, he is probably somewhere hustling and still in the life. Next up, I got Josh Kantos, who served as the manager of Club Truth seasons 1 through 3, and at one point he took a position under Simon Stern to be Ghost boss. And when Ghost got Truth back from Stern, he fired Kantos in humiliating fashion. And that's the last we saw of Josh Kantos. Though it was not seen on camera, it was mentioned that Kantos was trying to testify against Ghost at the Greg Knox trial in Power Season 4. We could for sure bump into Kantos again now that Tariq is moving into Wall Street banking. Either though Kantos was more working the club scene, he could have transitioned to Wall Street, or maybe he may be seen again when Tariq inherits Truth when he graduates, because it has not been mentioned who is currently running Truth. Could Josh Kantos somehow have weaseled his way back into the job? Up next, I got a character, I'm not sure about his name, but I think he went by Q. He was Tasha's connect when she was selling drugs out of the daycare. He also extorts money from people, as he tried to do to Tasha before she offered to sell his drugs for him. If we see this dude, I'm gonna call Q again. He would definitely be the type of slimy guy I would expect Kane Tejada to be running with. And since Kane currently doesn't have a crew, who knows? Down to my final two, and we got Quentin, who was Tasha's boyfriend for a little while in season 6 before she tried framing him for ghost murder. But lucky for Quentin, he was smarter than Tasha and went into a restaurant for an alibi. Tasha didn't have to go through all that. She should have just got rid of the gun and they wouldn't even be in all the mess they're in now. But here we are. And finally, I got the Coleman family. Heaven, Tina, and Vanessa. But with Andre Coleman, that snake, being dead, I got no reason for any of them to appear on the show, but you never know when it comes to power, and there you have it, power characters who are still alive and could return on Force or Ghost. Let me know in the comments if I left anyone off the list, as well as your predictions.